Hello and welcome into another live stream here on YouTube. What is going on? My name is Matt O'Leary, and today I am joined by Matt Lane of the KC Sports Network. Matt, thank you so much for joining me, my man.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the offer, and I'm excited to come in here and talk a little ball with you.
Absolutely. And I was just saying before we got started, it's unfortunate, but for whatever reason, we just can never get Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes. I don't know what we did to the football gods to piss them off, but I just don't think this is ever going to happen.
Yeah, it's not. I think this is the third time, if I remember right, that it's just fallen through with unfortunate injuries. I think this is the second time it has been Aaron Rodgers that has been out. Patrick Mahomes had to miss a game earlier on. I think it was Matt Moore that had to play against the Packers for that one for the Chiefs. It's just not going to happen, right? You have two guys that have a similar-ish playing style, and everybody wants to see the two go at it. And like, it's just we've been robbed from it. It's looking very, very grim to ever get that matchup.
It's brutal. But for those Kansas City Chiefs, kind of want to get an idea of what they've looked like so far this year and get into some things on what to expect in this game. Kind of looked like Kansas City of old this past week in week 3 against the Chicago Bears. The offense comes to life after, winning a game in week 2 that didn't really see a whole lot of offense against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But how much of this do you think is, all right, Kansas City's like they're back offensively to where it is and just beating up on the Chicago Bears?
It's obviously going to be a little bit of both, right? The Bears defense, right? The whole team, but especially on the defensive side of the ball, they're not on the same page. They don't really, they just, I don't want to say they're not playing hard, but they're not playing well. They're certainly not playing well. You have guys doing their own thing all over the place. So it was a good get right game for a Chiefs offense that had really been struggling for an identity. Obviously, having Travis Kelce miss the first game, and he looked a little physically limited against the Jaguars in week 2. Getting him back healthy, that kind of provides them with the identity that they didn't have. So anytime they get not even just into a third down, but if Patrick Mahomes starts to feel uncomfortable, he knows he can go find Kelce. That allows him to play more comfortable, more confident, and allows them to maintain kind of a better identity. And so they got that back versus the Bears. Much bigger challenge against the Jets here. So we're going to see if they can keep that ball rolling or if they're still trying to figure it out, because the first 2 weeks weren't pretty offensively, and they don't seem to have very many answers yet. It's just kind of Travis Kelce is our answer. I wonder if they're going to be able to build on that Bears game or not at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we knew that the offense was going to run through Travis Kelce, but how much concern is there with the wide receiver room for not only this game? Because I mean, one of the few bright spots right now for the Jets is that corner trio. They have a really nice
Yeah.
corner trio, even if you include Michael Carter in the slot. So right now, obviously, the Chiefs wide receiver room comes into question a lot. How much is that a concern, not only in this game but just going forward?
It's a big concern. I would say specifically for this game, right? It's probably not a super concern because you're just the expectation are this Jets secondary, especially the corners, will be able to shut down the Chiefs wide receivers, and that's fine. Going into it, knowing that they'll probably work around it. There's not going to be the expectation that Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to beat Sauce Gardner very frequently, right? That's just not on their going to be within the game plan. So I don't think it's as big necessarily for this game because of the expectation, but long term they are struggling with the wide receivers. Teams haven't challenged them a ton with man coverage this year, and that's kind of caught a lot of us by surprise. You would assume teams would just try to man up on a lesser wide receiver room and tell them to beat them. But the issue that the Chiefs have run into without Kelce, nobody's reading zone out properly. They're not on the same page with Mahomes. Like, they've been terrible against zone, throwing to the wide receivers. It doesn't really matter at this point in time. They're all trying to get on the same page. The one hope, like not hope, I don't want to say hope, but like the one thing that's going, Rashee Rice, a rookie, second round rookie, is starting to come on a little bit. They're getting him the ball in open space, and he's really good after the catch. So he has provided some highs for this Chiefs wide receiver room lately, even though if it's still very inconsistent as you would expect any rookie to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of expected for that learning curve. But to me, it certainly feels like, and not that this is a shocking revelation, but it's going to be a heavy tight end usage against this Jets team. And honestly, from just a Jets defense perspective, that's the way to attack them. They struggle at times with the tight end, and someone of Kelsey's caliber, I think you got to feed him as much as humanly possible in this one.
That's what it looks like to me. Yeah. Kelsey, like I mentioned, Rashee Rice, he plays predominantly out of the slots. Like those guys working over the middle of the field seems to be the best area to attack. Like the Jets, passing defense there. And I mean, still, what Quincy Williams and Jordan Whitehead have been amazing this year, right? So it comes even a little bit more matchup dependent. Can you get somebody on a CJ Mosley or an Amos/Adams, whoever's in there? So I do think they'll be hunting for those matchups, trying to throw the ball over the middle of the field. That's something they do like to do. That appears to be where Dak Prescott, Mac Jones had a little bit more success versus trying to challenge on the outside. So like there is a pathway there for the Chiefs to have an okay game throwing the ball around, but I definitely wouldn't expect it to be much to the outside. I don't know how involved the wide receivers will be, or if they are, it's going to be all on Andy Reid scheming guys open. Like, and you can never rule that out with him because he's one of the greatest ever at it. That's where it's got to be. It won't be talent one-on-one, mano-a-mano kind of stuff.
No, absolutely. And something that was a really big storyline from just yesterday, even, is Willie Gay's comments, which I wanted to get your opinion on. And by the way, I have no issue with what he said. I don't think anyone should have an issue with what he said. He said they're a team that wants to run the ball, which is 1000% true. They are trying to run the ball, and they are trying to just have Zach Wilson, game manage, which he's really having a hard time with right now. And the big issue there is teams like New England did this so well. They were just putting 8-9 guys in the box and daring Zach Wilson to throw, and he cannot do it, and he could not do it. So I would anticipate this is exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs are going to do again in this game.
Yeah, I'm a Chiefs fan, right? But like, Willie Gay has said some stuff before, I think going up against the Bengals. And it was just kind of like, okay, you don't need to say anything here. They've beaten the Chiefs the last few times. You're kind of poking the bear there without a need to. I don't think that's what he was trying to do. I don't think he was trying to be disrespectful. He just was asked a question. And I mean, I'm with him. When you go and watch, that's what the Jets are. They do want to run the ball. And it's a team that doesn't have a lot of confidence when they have to drop back and throw the ball around. And so like, I would think exactly what the Patriots did. You're going to load up the box. You're going to dare the Zach Wilson to throw the ball downfield and beat you, which he looks not only relatively poor doing it, but he looks like he lacks a ton of confidence. You watch him at BYU. Yes, it was a lot of fade routes. It was a lot of go balls. And I think that people kind of looked past where a lot of the stuff, like the production, was coming from when he was coming out, but he was throwing everything with confidence. And that is so gone right now. So you're going to load the box. The Chiefs have been a lot better versus the run this year. And you're going to make Zach Wilson beat you until he does. And so like, I agree with Willie Gay. I don't want to get a opponent riled up, but the question was asked. I don't know if there's any better way to answer it than the way he did.
No, I totally agree with you. It's Wilson's a completely different player. Even at times from his rookie season, like he just looked like he had much more confidence. Not that the numbers were necessarily there, but Rich chimes in with the super chat, so we'll get him up on the screen. He says, "Play action pass to Garrett 1-on-1 for the first play of the game. Nobody's going to see that coming." That's kind of true because, again, I don't know how much Jets football you're watching, and no hate to if you're not tuning in. I don't want to tune in half the time. But they are very predictable with Nathaniel Hackett. On first down, they run the ball almost exclusively. So Rich is kind of onto something here with taking a shot, a flea flicker. They're going to have to do something really, really creative to keep themselves in this game on Sunday.
And so, I mean, looking directly at that here, like the Chiefs this year, they have let L'Jarius Sneed kind of shadow number one wide receivers, especially playing on the outside for the majority. He was matched up against Calvin Ridley a lot. He was matched up against DJ Moore a lot. That's been his role. So the Jets, if they want it, they will probably get Garrett Wilson one-on-one with L'Jarius Sneed on the outside, and they will have their chance to take some shots. Sneed's been good this year, but I won't say that he's a lockdown corner or anything like that. I wouldn't say that Garrett Wilson shouldn't be beating him on a fair amount of the plays. So that is something they should try. They should try airing the ball out, get Wilson working vertically against Sneed, see if they can hit on some. Maybe you do force the Chiefs back into a too high shell, which they will play if you're going to get, beat them over the top a couple times. But they are going to make you see it. Steve Spagnuolo is going to make you prove that you can hit that. He's okay living with Sneed in tight coverage and Garrett Wilson making an amazing catch. Or he's okay with Zach Wilson airmailing the ball out of bounds instead of throwing on target. He'll live that way all day long if they don't force the Chiefs to respect that deep pass.
Absolutely. And, we were just talking about on Willie Gay's comments. It's very obvious that the Jets are going to try to run the ball, which they've struggled with the last 2 weeks in particular. But it's just it's so obvious and predictable what they're trying to do. I think that, easier said than done because of how bad Zach Wilson's struggling. But I think you have to take a couple of shots, even just to get the defense to back off a little bit to open up the run game.
No, I mean, absolutely. And like what you're going to get with the Chiefs is they'll have, Brian Cook or Justin Reed, their two safeties. Somebody will be either spinning down at the line towards the line of scrimmage on the snap. They'll align them down there. The Chiefs have been a little wild this year with some of their alignments. They've played a lot of a lot, but I mean, like a fair amount of 3-3-5. They've played a lot of dime with two linebackers out there, but then only three defensive linemen, two linebackers using their DBs. Like they're going to give you a lot of looks, but they'll still load up the box out of it. And then Trent McDuffie, a cornerback that plays out of the slot, he's been arguably one of their best run defenders just because of how well he's been tackling. I think he's tied for the team lead in terms of like run stops at or near the line of scrimmage. They've been good against the run. They will live with teams pushing the ball vertically until they start to succeed. And so far this year, no one's really excelled versus the Chiefs pushing it downfield. Not that Calvin Ridley didn't get a couple times got open or DJ Moore, but they're going to live with it until it's successful. If the Jets are going to have a chance to put up points on a defense that's been playing really well, I think they're going to have to hit some of those shots over the top of the defense that they will give them.
Absolutely. And someone I wanted to ask you about, because, former Chief, now a New York Jet, Mecole Hardman, uh, for whatever reason, Nathaniel Hackett has just pretty much refused to use him. He's played 16 snaps in 3 games, and 12 of them came in garbage time against the Cowboys. So just very, very bizarre. And fans obviously want to see him on the field more, especially over a guy like Randall Cobb without Aaron Rodgers here. But just kind of wanted to get, from your perspective, watching him the last few years, what's the best way to go about getting a guy like Mecole Hardman involved in the offense?
You get the ball in his hands, right? He's not going to be the most reliable wide receiver. You're not going to ask him to run a lot of timing routes. You're not going to push him over the middle of the field where he's going to deal with contact or physicality. Not that he can't make like a contested catch from time to time, just he doesn't love to get beat up during his routes. He doesn't love to have to run by linebackers, knocking him off his spot. So you get the ball in his hands, screens. The Chiefs had a lot of luck with him on jet sweeps, getting the ball in his hands, letting him go be a yards after the catch kind of creator. And he excelled in that role. And he's also a pretty good vertical route runner. If you can get him a free release, let him work down the seams or downfield and adjust to the ball, he's pretty good in those scenarios. It's just the issue he had in Kansas City, and it seems like he's having a little bit there with the Jets. And it made sense with Aaron Rodgers. I don't understand it as much with Zach Wilson. It's just earning that trust of a quarterback, right? Because Zach Wilson's clearly just not confident overall. It's just he struggled to earn the trust of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes and him weren't always on the same page. I could see how Aaron Rodgers and Mecole Hardman wouldn't have been on the same page during training camp at times. But at this point, put that speed on the field. Let him go threaten some guys. Maybe putting Mecole Hardman out there lightens up the box, whether you're running him in jet motion or letting him just go down the field and run some guys off. At this point, I don't think there's any reason the Jets should be favoring Randall Cobb over just that dynamic player that can be Hardman.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part, is because it seems so simple, like throw him a bubble screen, just get get the ball in his hands. But for whatever reason, they're favoring Randall Cobb right now, which again, kind of get it with Aaron Rodgers. If that's one thing, but when you're struggling to do anything on offense, it's frustrating to see like they won't even take a shot to get the ball in his hands. Or even Xavier Gibson, the dynamic punt returner who had the big return in week 1 against the Buffalo Bills, that won't utilize him on offense either. But that seems so simple, to just get the ball to your speed guys and let them do things, give them an end around something.
Yeah, and like I'm not an expert on Nathaniel Hackett's offense or anything like that, but after seeing it a little bit last year with Denver being in the AFC West and stuff, like I can see where that might be running up a little bit to a wall. I don't think that he's been amazing at using certain personnel all the times or anything like that. And so that is an adjustment you would like to see him make. Get some of these really skilled athletes out in space with the ball. That little throws, even if they're bubble screens, those are going to build up Zach Wilson's confidence if he's now all of a sudden facing a 2nd and 3. It's just a positive play. Not all the pressure's on him. So like, I do think that they can help Wilson a lot more with some of their offensive calls, and they haven't really done that so far through these past 2 weeks.
Totally fair. VR has a good question, so I want to pop him up on the screen. He says, how is Kansas City's defense against 12 personnel tight ends in play? Because that's something that the Jets don't want it to do a lot. They have Tyler Conklin, they have CJ Uzama, they have Jeremy Ruckert, 3 capable tight ends, and getting 2 tight ends on the field. So how would you, say that matchup wise is for this KC defense?
Yeah, historically, how you beat a Steve Spagnuolo defense is to force him to play base personnel, right? You want him to stay in a 4-3. You don't want him to get into his nickel dime stuff, because that's where he gets all of his exotic pressure packages and all the coverage adjustments. So like, the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers a few years ago, they beat the brakes off the Chiefs because they forced them to play out of base. If the Jets come out and play 12 personnel, the Chiefs will be forced to play in base defense a lot more frequently, and that makes them a little bit more predictable. So like, it's a very good strategy. The thing this year is bringing in Drew Tranquill and then the improvement from Leo Chenal at the linebacker spot. And whether Nick Bolton's healthy or not, the linebacker play has been so good for the Chiefs this year. They are handling it much better. They have athletes. They have guys that are seeing the field well. So I think it's smart, and I think the Jets should definitely try to do it. But compared to some previous years, the Chiefs seem well set personnel-wise to handle it and still keep some playmakers on the field with that linebacker room.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of wanted to get into this Kansas City Chiefs defense because I feel like a lot of times, the more casual fan will say that, oh, we got the Chiefs this week, great offense, but that's a defense you could kind of take advantage of. And that's not really the case. Like, this is a really good defensive unit. They've had a great start to the season. Obviously, Chris Jones back, I think, is a massive, massive help. But the linebacker room is where I'm really impressed with.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This defense kind of comes on after Thanksgiving, late in the year, usually. That's what it's been the past couple of years. They really kind of get it going for the playoffs. And still, a lot of it's Chris Jones being excellent and then Steve Spagnuolo dialing up a lot of stuff. This year, not only are they starting a little bit hotter on the defensive side, but you have other playmakers. We mentioned Snead outside. Trent McDuffie's been excellent. And then the linebacker play across the board has been really good. So, it's just, they are improving. They're the youngest defense, I believe, in the NFL right now. And that shows, right? There's a lot of athleticism out there, but you see improvement from year to year, week to week. They really are playing fast. They're playing good. And that linebacker room, they found a way to weaponize. They don't have a ton of defensive ends right now, especially with Charles Omenihu being suspended, but they're using Leo Chenal or Willie Gay as overhang linebackers, letting them go after the passer. And then if not, they're 250-pound strong linebackers. They're doing a very good job holding up in the run game when they're out there. So they just present a lot of, not going to say issues, but they pose a lot of questions for offenses right now because of that linebacker play. And I think that's gone a long way with stopping teams like the Lions, who have a pretty good run game. It really stifled them for the majority of that game on that side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick Bolton, someone who came up on the injury report this week, he didn't practice yesterday. Is there an expectation for him to play on Sunday, or is he someone you're expecting is going to be out?
I think he's going to miss the game. I don't know. I don't have any real read on it. He didn't practice at all last week and then missed the game. Drew Tranquill started in his place and played excellent. I mean, the Chiefs didn't really miss a beat, which is impressive. Nick Bolton's been, the captain, the leader of the defense the past couple of years. When he has had to come out at times being dinged up, you kind of immediately notice not even a drop off, but the communication looks a little off. It didn't versus the Bears. And again, caveat, it's the Bears. But I think they have high hopes for Drew Tranquill if he has to step in and play for Nick Bolton. Not saying he'll be as good, but he's been very good for him this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bolton doesn't play. Just let his ankle heal up as they go kind of further and deeper into their schedule now that they feel good about who they have as the backup, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And Daniel chimes in here with a good point that I want to get into. He says, you might have answered this, but what do you think of going up tempo early? Would assist in Zach's decision makings or completion percentage? Furthermore, Dan Orlovsky says we need to cut Zach loose. What do you think? So in very rare moments this year when Zach has looked semi-capable and they've gone on some nice drives, one was right before the half against Dallas where it was kind of 2-minute drill. A lot of up-tempo stuff. He was willing to tuck it and run and eat up yardage because they were giving it to him. And then there was another time, the one time where they got points against the Patriots this past week, where something similar happened. What do you think of the Chiefs defense against a more up-tempo style and how they fare?
I think again, another good plan, like going with heavy personnel. I think this is a good idea to come into the game and challenge the Chiefs defense with. Steve Spagnuolo kind of is a key part of this. He likes to go, if he likes to show pressure, mug A gaps, drop guys off, have relatively confusing coverage drops on the back end where guys will drop from the slot to deep and all sorts of stuff. You can't do that. You have to have your couple go-to calls against hurry up. If you want to protect a quarterback that is maybe struggling to read the field from pre-snap to post-snap, do that. Keep the Chiefs to be a little bit more basic and just kind of try to win one-on-ones. Not that the Chiefs defense can't win those, but you are limiting kind of one of the biggest parts of this defense, which is causing chaos, causing confusion. And so you take that away from them. I do think that's a good way to go about it. The one issue that the Jets might run into is Chris Jones can destroy any game you want, right? You're starting to go, quick up tippo, the Chiefs have a playmaker on every level of the field right now with Jones, McDuffie, any of the linebackers right now. They can make you pay if you're trying to go a little bit too fast. I wouldn't say they've had that in the past couple seasons. So I feel a little better about them having to just rely and fall back into, two-man or whatever they're going to run versus a hurry up than I would years past. But I do think it limits some of the calls they can do on defense that they like to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the second point, with they need Zach to take a couple more shots, and a lot of it is something we talked on earlier about his confidence. Just definitely is not there. But they've, in my opinion, at least, I think they've tried to get him to just not lose hit them the game and try to get him so conservative. And really last week against New England was the biggest thing for me, is they went way too conservative. He's almost scared to make a mistake. If you're going to go down, which obviously they brought in Trevor Siemian, and not that that's a fantastic option, but it's hard to argue that he wouldn't be an upgrade over what Zach Wilson's given them. It almost seems like it makes sense. Like, you might as well, you were this gunslinger coming out of BYU. Like, you might as well go down swinging if you're going to go down.
Yeah, I don't know Zach Wilson, obviously, or anything like that, but it seems like a quarterback of his style, of his demeanor, just going back to looking at BYU and kind of, looking through all the draft process interviews, it's going to be hard to take that guy and sit him down and be like, okay, I want you to manage this game. I want you just to make quick, short, on time, high percentage throws and not lose us this game. I understand why they're trending that direction based on some of his play throughout his career, but I think that's hard for a quarterback of just his mindset. That's not where he's at. And so you're already putting a little bit of a limitation on him, telling him, hey, we don't think you're good enough to go out there and play your way. So can you play our way instead? And I think that's leading into his lack of confidence and everything. Again, not saying that you can just open it up for him, because I don't think that results necessarily in wins either, but they do got to find a way to build up his confidence a little bit. And if that's going hurry up, if that's letting him get a couple more deep shots in, maybe it's moving the pocket and just letting him throw on the run. I don't know if he's been necessarily looking a whole lot better than that, but I know he did a lot of that at BYU. They just got to find something to build up his confidence, and then they can get back to running the ball once he provides some kind of threat. But until then, it's going to be tough for that offense to find a lot of movement.
Yeah, and looking at the Jets offense outside of the quarterback, which is obviously a challenge to do because that's the most important piece. What guys are you targeting or looking at of saying like, okay, like this is someone that we absolutely have to keep an eye on in this game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Garrett Wilson's a stud. I mean, he's amazing. The Chiefs are going to have to find a way to slow him down. But like I said, so far this year, they've left a lot of wide receiver ones to be, one-on-one until they get in the red zone. And then they will throw out double teams, brackets. They'll mix it up there. But if Garrett Wilson has a monster game and L'Jarius Sneed, because that'll be the matchup, if he can't cover him and he has a big game, that'd be huge for the Jets. In years past, I'd be very concerned about Breece Hall running all over the Chiefs, the way he's able to break tackles, turn what could be short gains into huge plays after making a guy miss. The Chiefs have been a lot better at tackling this year. They've been a lot better at rallying to the ball. So I'm a less nervous about it than the past, but not saying it can't happen. It's just that he's a guy that in the past would really give the Chiefs fits, because even if they have someone in the right position, they don't always make a sound tackle. This year, it's been better. But I think those are the two guys that they probably have highlighted coming into this game. Say, don't let these two guys beat you and you'll probably be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's from the Jets perspective, the frustrating thing with Breece Hall is that, as we mentioned at the top, they're stacking the box against him and there's really not a whole lot that they can do, which, getting them to the defense to back off a little bit by taking that shot down the field might be the way to try to help open that up a little bit. On the Jets defensive side of things, we talked a lot about Travis Kelce, but where are you thinking that Mahomes and Reed go? Is it just force feed Travis Kelce, or is there another way you think they are attacking this Jets defense?
It's going to be force feed Kelce until the Jets take him away. And whether that is somebody just has his number that day in coverage, whether it's throwing two bodies at him, whatever it may be, the Chiefs have seen the whole gambit to slow down Kelce throughout the years, and it usually doesn't entirely work, right? But they've also spread the ball around really well. I think all three games now, over 10 10 players have caught a pass. They will get the ball out to various different guys if it's open. So it'll just be, as long as their pass protection holds up, they will find the way to kind of pick apart a defense eventually that will show mistakes. Or if everyone's covered, Patrick Mahomes' ankle seems to be fine from last week, he'll pick up some yards on the ground. I think that's that big matchup. What happens with Kelce? And if they're focused on taking him away, who can step up? Kadarius Toney, hurt off and on, never a reliable player. But when he is healthy, the Chiefs usually get a fair bit out of him. Rashee Rice has stepped up in his kind of absence of just being a guy, get the ball to him in open space, let them kind of pick up chunk plays. And I think that's kind of what they're basing their offense out of right now.
Yeah, you mentioned the Chiefs pass protection. I want to get more in detail there with, the Jets defensive line is one of their strengths. They had a huge night against the Bills on their first game of the year, and they've been a little quiet the last 2 weeks, but still overall a really solid defense. How do you think pass pro the Chiefs hold up against this Jets defensive line?
Yeah, I'm interested to watch. The Chiefs' strength is the interior of the offensive line. Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Quinnen Williams is great. He's a phenomenal pass rusher, and he's probably going to get his, especially when they get him matched up on Trey Smith. I think that is a matchup the Jets should be looking for. Trey Smith has a tendency to play off balance. Quinnen Williams is one of the better interior rushers at using that to his advantage. So that is something that I would keep an eye on if I were Jets fans looking for somebody that's going to completely blow up the game. Is Quinnen Williams matched up on Trey Smith, right? On the outsides, I wouldn't lie. If Bryce Huff scares me a little bit going up against Donovan Smith, Donovan Smith's been better this year than last year at left tackle than he was for the Bucs, but he still struggles with speed. So it's anybody that can really pressure him up the arc with some speed. That's where you start to get a little worried as a Chiefs fan. It hasn't come back to bite them yet. The pass protection's been great so far this year, but that's kind of where those are the two spots that I'm concerned is the Trey Smith matchup with Williams, and then any speed rush against Donovan Smith there coming off the left side.
Well, you don't really have to worry about Bryce Huff because as good as he is, the Jets don't put him on the field. He played like 20% of the snaps the last 2 weeks, but that is someone that you're going to be in the good graces of Jet fans for saying that because Jet fans are yelling to get him on the field more. Will McDonald, the first round pick, to get on the field a little bit more, and even Jermaine Johnson from last year to get on the field more. They run a lot of Carl Lawson and John Franklin Myers in their base but they rotate them heavy. Unfortunately, with Carl Lawson, the injuries have kind of taken over. It very much so looks like he's lost that step. So, I'm with you. I think the speed is off the edge specifically would be the matchup. So I personally would favor guys like Will McDonald and Bryce Huff, who that's in their repertoire. They are a speed edge rushers.
No, for sure. And that's what right now gives the Chiefs, probably the most fits. Now, that flip side, you want to go over to the right tackle, Jawaan Taylor. Outside of the penalty issues with, being aligned on the line of scrimmage properly, whatever, he's fine with speed, right? So you probably want to put a more power rusher over Jawaan Taylor. That's where he struggles a little bit more. But he's been excellent in pass protection. It's been the formation penalties that have kind of knocked him down a little bit, but he's been great in pass pro. Off that left side, though, speed versus Donovan Smith, especially a guy that has a good inside counter. So this would be a quality game for a Will McDonald who loves that spin move. It would be a great game for him to pressure, Donovan Smith up the outside, come back in with that inside counter, because that's where he's been giving up the majority of his pressure this year. Mahomes has done a great job navigating pressure, whether it's speed up the middle. He's, one of the best, if not the best in the league at dealing with pressure. So it's not that it immediately ends the game for the Chiefs if this happens, but there is a chance that, you can really make some of the blockers on the Chiefs offensive line struggle a little bit, I think, with the particular matchups. To your point, they have to play the guys, though, that can provide that speed rush. You want to run through Donovan Smith's chest, he's going to welcome that all day, right? So, please send guys like that out there if I'm the Chiefs coaching staff.
Now, what's your thoughts on Jawaan Taylor? Because I know that's been a big storyline with how he's lining up, and the false starts in week one's been going around on Twitter. But what's your takeaway from him as a Chiefs?
Oh, man. I mean, obviously I'm biased because I'm a Chiefs fan. I think first and foremost, the Chiefs got to fix it internally right now. Whatever's happening, whatever's being called, you have to figure out if that means Jawaan Taylor has to align exactly on the line of scrimmage instead of even remotely playing where he wants to. If that means he has to face check the ref every single play, whatever it is, they got to come up with an answer on the field for the time being. And that is on the Chiefs coaching staff and Taylor himself. That said, it's very clearly targeted at Jawaan Taylor at this point. I mean, Andy Reid came out. I don't know if you heard this. He came out and said in the second half of that game, they were essentially testing it out. They put their backup right tackle in and had him align in the exact same spot Jawaan Taylor was. And they had their left tackle aligning deeper than he normally would to see if they would get a flag. Spoiler, no flags were thrown on anybody but Jawan Taylor. So like there's clearly a little bit of a target on his back, but the Chiefs still have to fix it internally. And so this doesn't keep happening. You can't have a touchdown taken away every single week because he's aligned 4 inches away from where a referee wants him to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree. I think there is a hyper focus on him, especially after, week one.
Yeah.
Slightly changing gears here, but we were just talking Jets defensive line. I mentioned Jermaine Johnson, and I am more than pleased that the Jets have Jermaine Johnson, but I was a noted George Karlaftis stan coming out of the draft.
Okay.
So I wanted to get how he's looked so far through 2 years.
First year was probably exactly what I think most people would have expected watching George Karlaftis pursue. A lot of effort, a lot of high energy, maybe not a guy that you were locating and saying, hey, this guy is going to be a problem as a pass rusher, because it's just a lot of effort wins, a lot of slow burn stuff. I think he had 8 sacks last year. And like one of them came in under like 3.5 seconds. They were all effort sacks later in the rush. This year, he looks a lot better. He looks improved. His hand technique has been a lot better. He worked with Chiefs legend Tom Bahali a lot on his hand usage. That does show up. So he's definitely a little bit more, not even say dynamic, but he's able to win a little bit quicker this year. And he's still a good player versus the run. Great kind of secondary, tertiary pass rusher that helps Chris Jones, helps the Chiefs pass rush that's working really well together right now. It's like good. It's trending upward. The pick has looked fantastic for the Chiefs right now. Not trying to take shots. He's looked like a better football player than Jermaine Johnson has, throughout this point in time in their NFL careers. It's like, that's good for the Chiefs' perspective. I don't know if he is ever going to be a true star pass rusher, though. It just doesn't seem to be. He seems a little bit too stiff for that going forward.
Yeah, no, totally fair. And I don't think you can necessarily disagree with that take that, he's been further along than Jermaine Johnson. I'm curious to see, when Jermaine's snap count goes up a little bit, if that has much of an impact on it as well. And yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. I nerd out about the draft sometimes a little bit, and I like some of my guys, and he was one of my guys that I wanted to keep.
Well, so fun story on that. We do for KCSN, we have a live draft watch party, so we watch the whole draft. We're talking about the entire time. The Chiefs trade up 2 years ago. They end up taking Trent McDuffie. Everybody at the bar that we were, doing our live show at is expecting Jermaine Johnson to be the pick. That's what everybody was certain who the Chiefs traded up for, because he fits what Steve Spagnuolo likes out of the position. They like guys that go, that end up being seniors. Like, he fit everything about it. The pick is announced as Trent McDuffie, and including us, like doing this live show, the entire Chiefs bar is just silent. And they're like, everyone's trying to figure out what to do with drafting an undersized corner. And a team that doesn't value corners, they have all 7th round corners starting at the time. They pass on a guy that looks like this perfect fit. So it worked out obviously for the Chiefs so far. McDuffie's been great. It's just that was a time because everybody was certain they traded up for Jermaine Johnson, and it would have made a lot of sense, but they ended up going a different route for him.
Absolutely. That's funny. I love that stuff. Just a couple more things on some key matchups before we get out of here. Maybe some players under the radar, outside the big names, that Jet fans should be keeping a close eye on either side of the ball.
Yeah. The Chiefs running game's been pretty good the past 2 weeks. Jags and Bears again, so grain of salt. And I know the Jets, a lot better defense than either one of them. But Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not super dynamic. He's kind of only going to go as far as the blocking takes him, but the blocking's been good. And then Isaiah Pacheco is super dynamic, but is a little bit more inconsistent. The run game's been good. They've gotten away from just running outside zone 75% of the time and it not working. They're starting to incorporate a lot more variety into their run game. So it has been good. Same concept of theirs is the opposite. They need to keep teams being balanced by running the ball a little bit more frequently at times versus the Jets need to throw it. And so you just keep an eye on it, especially Pacheco. He can turn any carry into a 30-yard gain because he is that big, fast, explosive kind of guy. And then defensively, I feel like we talked about a lot of the guys so far, but someone to keep an eye on, Mike Dana. He's a defensive end. He reduces inside to D-tackle a lot and third down passing downs. He's been doing really good as an interior rusher. He's made a lot of guards getting instant push back into quarterbacks' laps. He's had a couple early pressures in the past couple games. So he's a name that I don't think most fans know of for the Chiefs, but defensive end, 51, and then he'll kick inside. And when he's inside, if you leave him one-on-one with the guard, it's going to be a battle. And he wins a couple of those every single game that end up having a pretty big impact.
Nice. There we go. Absolutely. Yeah. From the Jet side of things, it's pretty much the guys that we expect. But I saw some people in the chat talking Alan Lazard, which I ironically the for whatever reason, Zach Wilson feels more comfortable with those big receivers. He did it with he did it with Corey Davis. He locked into
Yeah.
Corey Davis his first 2 years, and I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to get the ball more towards Alan Lazard. I mean, just because of how good Garrett is, they're gonna try to get him reps. But I agreed with that as well. That Alan Lazard is someone who might sneaky be in this game, and I think the safety play is going to come down to it on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're going to be very involved with trying to take Travis Kelce out of this game as best they can. Easier said than done. So Jordan Whitehead's a name, and someone else that you mentioned even at the top, Quincy Williams, who's come on really, really strong. And one of his strength or weaknesses, rather, that has turned into a strength this year was in coverage. He really struggled in coverage his first couple of years with the Jets, but he's been great this year in coverage. So I would say those are some names on both sides of the ball to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Lazard especially, he'll get that matchup against the Chiefs' number 3 corner for the most part. So he'll get Joshua Williams if he is able to play, or Jalen Watson. They're good players, and especially Watson. He has a knack for making plays on the football when the opportunity presents itself. But I wouldn't say either one of them are a super strength. So yeah, if he feels comfortable throwing to Lazard, especially even into a little bit tighter coverage, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, they will make mistakes trying to play the football. So there is definitely meat to be had on that bone if that's a guy they want to target opposite of Garrett Wilson.
What's your final prediction? Maybe a score in this game?
Okay. I don't want anybody to hate me here, but I do think the Chiefs defense is playing really good right now, and the Jets offense is really struggling. I think it'll be a little bit of a slog for the Jets offense to find a lot of success against this Chiefs defense, especially the way they're playing. I think that unit is playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and not reading too much into it, but just the way Willie Gay was kind of talking in that thing, it seemed to me like a defense is going to come into this game with a lot of confidence. Not arrogance, just confidence about what they need to do to stop the Jets offense. So I think the defense kind of plays well, and the Chiefs offense, even when they struggle, they're never down. They're never bad. So I think the Chiefs are going to take this one. We're going to say 24-10. And maybe that's a big score gap. I understand, but I don't think the game's going to be that far apart. I just think it'll be really hard for the Jets to score some points on this Chiefs defense right now.
No, totally agree. I am hammering Chiefs minus 9.5. I am almost surprised that it's not double digits, and thankful that it's not double digits because I'm going to hop on it. So no shade taken on that one. And Jet fans are very, very down on the offense. Look, the defense is still really, really good, and they should keep this team in a lot of games this year. I don't know if it's this week. I think this is a really, really tough matchup. At the top, we talked about we never get the Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. I think the game would be completely different. I think it would be, a fun one if it was both those guys. But unfortunately, Zach Wilson's just not making this offense competitive. So I'm with you. I think the Chiefs win this one going away.
Yeah, and then that's the disappointing part, right? This is one of those games that I think everyone circled when schedule release came out is must-see TV. It's clearly got the primetime spot, and it could still very well be a good game because, Jets are going to be up for this game. Hey, Taylor Swift is in the house. Everyone's going to be a little excited now that there's more eyes going around, and it could still be very much a good game between two really good defenses. It's just one offense right now you kind of have faith to figure it out with, and the other one, unfortunately, is stuck with an unconfident Zach Wilson at quarterback right now.
Matt, where can people find your stuff if they want to follow along with your Chiefs coverage?
Yeah, so the easiest way to do it is just kcsportsnetwork.com. From there, it gets linked out to our YouTube page, our Substack that has all of our film work and everything on it. That's probably the easiest to find everything from KC Sports Network, and it's mostly Chiefs coverage, but we actually cover all Kansas City sports. So hey, if you're a fan of soccer or baseball or in college sports, it kind of has it all, but the main focus is on the Chiefs. But yeah, kcsportsnetwork.com has the links to everything else.
Love it. It's Matt Lane. He covers the Chiefs for KC Sports Network. Thank you so much for joining me, Matt. We'll have to do this again soon.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Hopefully there's a rematch in the playoffs so we can get to run this back again.
I love it. That's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching today, and tune in next time.